'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature there stirred, not even a mouse, except for the lurkers who've come for a fright, those ghosties and ghoulies who go bump in the night. Welcome to Spirit Box Radio's Advice and Community segment on the threshold of Christmas Eve, with me, your temporary host, Sam Enfield. Welcome back, faithful listeners, to this marginally merrier edition of the Advice and Community segment here at Spirit Box Radio. I know many of you who celebrate Christmas may be spending it alone this year, and as someone who has spent the festive period in the company of myself and nobody else on several occasions, I'm here to reassure you that it's really not that bad. For one thing, Christmas dinner for one is a much easier ordeal to orchestrate, and you have no competitors for who gets the end of the Yule log. Plus, there are no arguments over who gets to burn the pentagram from the top of the tree at the end of the night, which makes everything a lot easier if you ask me. There is a great abundance of different midwinter holidays all over the world. It seems like people of all cultures feel the need to celebrate during the darkest months of the year. Remember though, it's no different for the dearly departed or the demonstrably demonic. Make sure you salt your doors and windows if you've been anywhere near the arcane arts in the last few weeks. Santa might not be watching, but malicious spirits certainly might be. And if you ask me, the only spirits I want inside of me this time of year are brandy and whiskey. Usually, on the day of the last community and advice segment before Christmas, Madame Marie leaves out a little card in the sorting trays for the P.O. box, and sometimes a little treat. Last year it was a chocolate truffle in the shape of a Christmas pudding. I know it was foolish to hope I'd find something this morning, but of course there wasn't anything. After hearing so much from Kitty and Anna in the last few weeks, I've sort of been hoping that one or maybe even both of them would drop by today, or maybe send a card, but no. Since I made it clear to Anna I wasn't going to stop recording the show whatever she said to me, she's not been answering any of my texts. And Kitty hasn't spoken to me either since I accidentally played that message live on air last week. I really didn't mean to. It was just sort of there. Anna's spending Christmas with her lawyer fiancé. Paul? Peter? No, John, maybe. Something like that. Anyway, I suppose it makes sense. We haven't had a Christmas with Madame Marie since... You know, I don't know if we ever did have a Christmas when she was there the whole day. I have sort of vague memories of Christmases with Anna and Kitty, burning the pentagram I'd made for the tree, salting the windows, shooing off the stray cats that were always forcing their way into the house through the broken window in the downstairs bathroom. I don't remember Madame Marie being there, though. Not ever, actually. I don't remember. I'm not sure what Kitty does for Christmas nowadays. I think she has a new girlfriend. Well, a new she's not my girlfriend, but yes, she's been in the shed with me for the past 3 days person. The shed is where Kitty stays when she's not off on her investigative adventures. It's the shed. It is not actually a shed. It's a proper little guest house Madame Marie had built for Kitty when... I don't know when it was, but it's Kitty's. It's quite lovely, very modern inside. Little kitchen, massive shower, space for a bed and a small couch. It's not drafty. The house can get pretty miserable. And I don't know what the best way to describe it is. Musty? Damp? I have the heating on all the time, but it never feels warm in here. Not unless you're right up close to the radiators. The studio is very warm, though. Oh, I'm embarrassed to say this, faithful listeners, but it's been so cold I've actually been sleeping down here a few nights a week. You won't believe this, but, well, the second window in my bedroom is a lot older than the one I always knew was there. The second window is single glazed, I think, and what's the term? When they open by sliding over one another? Sash? I'm not certain, but that sounds about right. Anyway, it's one of those, and there are layers and layers of paint on the frame. I suppose it's just shy, or perhaps very attached to its aesthetic. Maybe nobody ever sees it usually, and I'm lucky it's trusted me with itself. Nevertheless, I shall try to have words with it at some point, because the way it rattles and whines in the night is something terrible. It's becoming impossible to sleep in there at all. I'd sleep in Madame Marie's room, but I shouldn't. The door is open, just slightly ajar. But I can't bring myself to go in there. I can't, faithful listeners. Through the gap in the door, I can see the end of the bed is perfectly made. I can see a half-drunk glass of water on the bedside table. I can see her fluffy green slippers kicked just under the edge of the bed, next to the boxes of her spell supplies. But I can't go in there. I can't. Wherever Madame Marie is, I hope she has a lovely Christmas. That is, if she doesn't make it back here in time for lunch. I'll put in enough nut roast for her to have some too, like I always do. And enough for Kitty in case she stops by and wants a sandwich, and for Anna in case she comes by too. And I'll probably make enough for what's-his-name too in case he tags along. But mostly, otherwise I'm just cooking for myself as usual. I'm not completely void for company, of course. I've got the stray cats that keep coming into the garden, whatever it is that makes the pipes rattle, the recording machine, and, of course, you, faithful listeners. There has been an abundance of well wishes sent our way, along with season's greeting and possible maledictions across the board in emails, messages on the forums, and in cards sent to our PO box. I've sorted them all accordingly, old habits die hard, and I thought I'd share my favourites with you now. This is one from Petrus, which reads, De pecca in illis qui, volunte male. Thanks, Petrus. That's really thoughtful. I appreciate it. Monica from Ashton-under-Lyne has sent a beautiful hand-painted card featuring a Christmas tree with lots of presents underneath and a handmade pentagram on the top. Thanks, Monica, but remember not to set the real pentagram on fire until it's off the tree. Will from Oxford has sent us some real-life holly sprigs, which I've put on top of the computer monitor here in the studio to bring a little bit of festive cheer in, right next to the gorgeous taxidermy robin that we were sent by Bella from Harlock. The positioning of its little wings is just so precious. Thank you, Bella and Will. We've also received a telegram from Georgie from Dizith, which has a special note at the top that says, "Please read me on the air." So I'm happy to oblige you, Georgie. Dear Sam, I'd like to start out by telling you what a great job you're doing with the show since Madame Marie disappeared. I know you don't have a lot of experience with presenting radio shows, and sometimes that really shows, but you're clearly trying your best, and it's been really exciting to hear you learning new skills. Please keep us up to date on your progress with reading tarot cards. I'm really trying to learn to read them myself, and it's been really reassuring to have someone like you make mistakes and learn from them in real time. Where I grew up, there is a house on the corner of my street which reminded me very much of the house that Kitty the investigator was describing in her email to Madame Marie. It seemed perfectly ordinary, and I probably wouldn't have noticed it at all if I hadn't had a paper round. I was supposed to deliver a paper to every house on my street, but whenever I got to the gate of the house on the corner, I got this funny feeling that I should wait until later, and before I knew it, I would be out of the front garden and halfway up the street. In all of my years delivering the local journal, I don't think I ever once managed to get a paper through the door. I'd completely forgotten about the house on the corner until I caught the episode of the Community and Advice segment where Kitty wrote in about it, so I thought I'd ask my mum when I popped in for tea the following Sunday. She still lives in the house where I grew up, though she's getting on a bit now, and I'm actually trying to convince her to move somewhere with less stairs, as she's had a couple of nasty falls in the last year. The house on the corner was still there, a friendly glow in the windows, so I parked my car between the corner and my mum's place so I could wander up and see if it still had the same effect on me as it had when I was a kid. I got right up to the gate, then felt like it wasn't the best time to call on the people who lived there, and by the time I knew what I was doing, I was back at my car with the door pulled open. It was very strange. I went into my mum's and I helped her make dinner. I asked her about the house on the corner, and she got very confused because there isn't a house on the corner as far as she knows, and there never has been, according to her. I tried to laugh this off, but she seemed very concerned, as apparently I used to tell stories about a house on the corner when I was younger too. She said that she and my dad actually got quite worried about me at one time because I claimed to be friends with a boy that lived there, and I would come home saying I'd spent the day with him. I do actually remember this friend, although I can't recall his name. He was a few years younger than me, if I remember rightly, and he'd come out and play with me on the strip of pavement directly outside the corner house's gate. At this point, I was getting quite frustrated with my mum because she was insisting this boy and the house were entirely imaginary. Then she went away and pulled a photo album and showed me a photograph of me playing on the strip of pavement beside a barren patch of grass. I blinked, and like when you've been staring at a light for too long and it leaves a little blob on your vision, I could see the windows of the house on the corner exactly where they should have been in the photograph, but weren't. I was shaken, obviously, and I did my best to keep it from Mum. I helped her clear away the dishes and did a spot of hoovering for her before I left. On my way back to the car, I stopped and found myself staring at the house on the corner. At that angle, I could only just see the warmly lit front windows. I had a feeling deep in my chest and a tingling in my toes. It felt like it was time. It was a good moment to pop round. For the first time in all these years. My heart was racing. I practically bounded through the front gate. The front door was ajar and the most welcoming golden light spilled out onto the path. I could smell baking and flowers and something that didn't sit quite right, but it had been so long I didn't stop to think. When I stepped over the threshold, I could hear a radio playing, skipping through channels. It was Spirit Box Radio. I didn't have a chance to check on the forums, which I know is bad practice, but I sat down next to the radio on the floor and I said, "Come home, Sam. Please come home, Sam. I miss you. Don't you remember playing hopscotch on the street? It's so warm and happy in the house, Sam. It's really lovely. You won't be alone on Christmas Day if you just come home, Sam. Please come home." I am home, Georgie. I live in the house above the studio. I've always lived here. I've never been to Dizeth. I don't know anything about this house on the corner, and I don't think I have any friends. I don't think I've ever had any friends. I don't remember. I can't remember. I grew up here with Madame Marie, didn't I? I've always lived here. This is my home. I'm home. Sorry, faithful listeners. I just what a strange telegram, and long for a telegram. Come to think of it, it's far too long to be a telegram, and it didn't look this long when I picked it up. And wait, it's just a blank piece of card. Never mind. Moving on swiftly. We've also had a Christmas card from regular caller Beth. This card has a little note tucked inside, which you've opened with "Please feel free to read on air," so I'll do that right now. Thank you, Beth. I'm sure this one will be perfectly normal. Dear Sam, it's been a real pleasure getting to know you better over the past few weeks. You're doing a great job hosting the show, and if Madame Marie comes back, I'm sure she'll be nothing but extremely proud of you and all of your hard work. Thank you so much for your help about my eyebrow. The vegan alternative to the blood of the innocent works perfectly. I'll definitely be using that again. All my love, Beth. Oh, Beth, thank you so much for sending this in. I'm glad you're enjoying my somewhat inept temporary hosting of the show, and I'm really glad I was able to help with your eyebrow. I'm only sorry that I didn't help sooner, a foolish boy that I am, not realising the phone was just a few feet away from me this whole time. I can't help but notice you said "if Madame Marie comes back" rather than "when Madame Marie comes back." I hope you're not too worried about her. I'm sure she's absolutely fine. I am half expecting her to come home tomorrow. The trouble with having a psychic for a mother is... Oh, God. Goodness me. I wasn't supposed to say that. Oh, Madame Marie, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to let that slip. Anyway, the trouble with psychics is sometimes they're so caught up in the future they forget about the presents. This wouldn't be the first time she's forgotten about this Christmas because she's so worried about the next one. Luckily, I've always had Kitty and Anna around to... Oh, look at me, I'm saying far too much, faithful listeners. Please excuse me a moment while I I'm just going to... Oh, God, I can't believe it, she's going to kill me. Right. I'm back. So sorry, listeners. What was I saying? Oh, yes. Please don't fret about Madame Marie. I'm sure she'll return post-haste. It will be fabulous when she does, of course. Such a relief, but I will miss hosting the show. I do so love it. I've always loved the show, and it's been my sincerest wish for such a long time that I'd be able to host it. Speaking with you now in the wee hours of Christmas Eve is a present enough for me. I can burn the pentagram alone. It will be enough to know that there are people tuning in, so thank you so much, faithful listeners. I'm sure Anna will call in from her Christmas day with her lawyer fiancé. What was it? Joe? Eric? I've forgotten his name again. I have met him a few times, but he's never made a particularly strong impression on me, you know? He seems fine. I'm not sure what Anna sees in him, except that he's pretty good at following instructions. I do wonder what Kitty's doing, though. I went out to her shed the other day and put up a few fairy lights, and I left her Christmas present on the countertop, so if she comes back, she'll have something to open. I stuck on the heating too. I doubt she'll be back. It sounds like she's pretty busy, but nonetheless, it's good to be prepared, isn't it? That's what Madame Marie always says anyway. One of the great benefits of having a psychic around is always knowing that we'd have enough money. She never managed to get a full set of lottery numbers, but she could often get enough to pay the bills. And we have the house, and she lets me live here for free. And to be honest, I think it's because she likes to keep an eye on me. I'm not sure why. She seems to think I'd get into trouble if she left me alone, but look at me now, faithful listeners, recording the show every week without fail. Even finding the hidden recording machine in the studio phone, despite its clever disguise. Anyway, I thought we might try to, Did you hear that? Huh. Well, okay. Yeah, right. So, I'm just going to check on that, in case it's important. Who is knocking at the door at 3 in the morning? I'll leave you with, the soothing sounds of the spirit box.
Tick tock.
I'm back, faithful listeners. There was nobody there. It must have been my... Oh, faithful listeners, there's a box on the desk in front of the microphone. It's red with a green bow on top. There's a tag. It says Sam. That's my name. I mean, of course you know that, but... How did it... Oh, never mind. Never look a gift box in the mouth, right? Let's have a look inside. Oh, it's a rose. It's very beautiful. And underneath there's a note. The note says, Augury forecast. Unmerry Christmas. Love from Dad. Dad? What? I don't know what to say. Thank you, whoever left this. Thank you, but I think I'm going to go to bed now. Yeah, that seems like the best course of action at this point. Wishing all of you faithful listeners a very Merry Christmas, as filled with joy as can be in a year like this. Remember to pair your socks, or the sprites will have them before the new year. This has been Spirit Box Radio Advice and Community segment. Thank you, and good night. Spirit Box Radio is distributed by Hanging Sauce Studios under a Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 international license. The show is created, directed and produced by me, Ada Major, the voice of Sam Enfield. Music is by Maybe Wednesday. Find us on Twitter at Spirit Box Radio or tweet the sloths at Hanging Sloths. Find out more at hangingsaucestudios.wordpress.com, where you'll also find transcripts of all of our episodes. You can support the show at patreon.com/Hanging Sauce Studios. Please rate and review us on iTunes, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Spirit Box Radio is recorded in front of a dead studio audience.
Tune in, get spooky.